Paul Takita. I'm the Assistant Skills Director over here at the wood shop. Today we're going to be going over the safety procedures of all the machines so that you can keep all your fingers and then make something awesome. So let's get started. And this is the scroll saw. It's made for cutting thin pieces of wood and intricate designs into them. Key features of the scroll saw are the power button here, the control for the variable speed, as well as the air hose here, which will shoot air out of it to blow away the dust so that you can see your design as you're cutting. Obviously, this is the blade here. You will not want your hands or fingers anywhere near this blade while the machine is on. So, obviously as well, you'll need your eye and ear protection. And let's get going. Let me show you how it works. And then of course, when you're finished, please make sure that you turn the machine off here, as well as unplugging it here. And this is the table saw. This is probably one of the most utilized pieces of equipment we have here in the wood shop. We've used this to make long straight cuts on larger pieces of wood to create many of the things that you see across base. So let me go through all the procedures on how to run this piece of equipment so that you can do it safely, and like I said, keep those fingers. Successfully using this piece of equipment starts with proper setup. First off, you're going to start off with the fence here. Setting up the fence begins with lifting this lever here, making your adjustment to your proper width, and then pushing it back down to lock it into place. Next, we will discuss setting up the blade. The blade height and blade angle is very important to making sure you get your proper cut. First, we will discuss the blade angle, which is going to be here. The first step with your blade adjustments is going to be here on the side of the table saw with the angle of the blade. First step is you're going to turn this wheel to unlock it here, and then make your adjustments right or left to change the angle of the blade. The angle of the blade is annotated here roughly with this arrow. Fine-tuning can be done using this device here placed against the blade. Then you can make your fine adjustments on the side, and you can see that they're annotated on that calibration device. Next, we'll be discussing the height of the blade. The wheel on the front here is the same as the one for the angle. You'll unlock it here, and then make your adjustments down or up by turning this wheel. Proper height adjustment is important with your piece of wood to ensure a nice cut and to ensure that all of the teeth pass through the piece of wood. The proper height that you'll want this is so that the bottom of the teeth are located at the top of your wood. Now that we got our table saw all ready for our cut, everything's set up properly, we need to make sure that our dust collection system is turned on. And that is located here. You're going to go down here, this is going to be your first step. You're going to pull this lever, and then the suction is going to begin for the dust collection. All right, now I'm going to show you how to turn the machine on here. The green button located here is going to turn the machine on. In the case of an emergency, there is a large red emergency stop button located here. There's also another one located over here as well. All right, that's about it. I guess we're ready to cut. Let's go. For larger pieces of wood like this one, it's perfectly fine to push this and make sure that you're keeping up against the fence as well as keeping your piece of wood down. You're going to push all the way through, past the blade, and then you're going to power the machine down. For thinner pieces of wood like this, we'll use our hand, keeping against the fence and down until we get to approximately here, and then we'll be utilizing a push stick and pushing it all the way through. It operates very similarly to the table saw. With the blades on the Dado saw, you can stack up to 6 blades. It's very convenient to make nice box cutouts, whether you're doing shelving units or cabinets or whatever you desire. You can just make that pass on here and make that nice square box cutout. When adjusting the fence for the Dado saw, you will lift this lever right here to unlock it, and then it's free to move. And then you push it back down to lock it in place. The height of the blades can be adjusted here by rotating this to the right or to the left. And the power for the Dado saw is located here. And let's not forget, anytime we're in the wood shop using any of the equipment, to use our PPE. Next up, we have the Radial Arm Saw. It's made for making that first initial rough cut on large pieces of lumber. You get your piece of wood set up here, put it where you need to be cut. You're going to turn the machine on. You're going to pull with your arm closest to the blade, depending on whether you're right or left-handed. And then you're going to pull through, and you only need to go through past your piece of wood, and then go back. Unlike the table saw, there's a lot less chance of kickback with this machine because the blade is rotating towards the wall. If the blade does happen to catch your piece of wood, it's just going to take it and push it up against the fence. So there's no need to be concerned about kickback with this. However, we still need to make sure that we're utilizing this equipment safely. Setup with the Radial Arm Saw is very minimal. You're just going to need your piece of wood that you're ready to cut, and then you're just going to need to put on your PPE and start the power. How you utilize the Radial Arm Saw. Right, the next piece of equipment we have up is the Mortise Press. It's a really cool piece of machinery. It allows you to create a mortise or a square hole by the drill bit here, surrounded by the 4 chisels. You press that through your piece of wood, you'll get your mortise, and then you have what's called like a tenon or your crossbar or whatever, and then you can stick that into the mortise, and there you go, you have your joint. So now that we're ready to make our mortise, just make sure we got to put our eye and ear protection on. So we'll do that now. And then other than your eye and ear protection, the only thing that you're going to want to make sure that you don't do is place your hand anywhere near the bit while it's on. So then now we've got it all set up and ready to go. We're going to turn the machine on, and then I'll show you how it operates on switches located here. We'll put your piece of wood here. And then when you're ready to make your mortise, you're going to pull the handle down and through your piece of wood. And there we have it, our square hole. Next up we have the drill press. So after you've selected the correct drill bit and asked your friendly staff member to get you that drill bit, you're gonna take that, you're gonna put it in here, into the chuck. You're gonna hand tighten it, and then you'll find the chuck key here, insert it in there, and then just make it a little snug, and then you're ready to go. And just like the mortise press, the eye and ear protection is key. And also, just like the mortise press, just make sure you don't have your hand anywhere near the bit when it's operating. And then to operate the drill press, you'll turn the switch on here after you've got your piece of wood set. And then you pull the handle down. And there we have it. Our nice hole. Ready to go. Next up we have the lathe. Today we're not going to get into the operation of the lathe, but if you ever feel the need to come in and turn a baseball bat or a table leg or a bowl, this is the piece of machinery you're going to do. You're going to have your piece of wood here, and you're going to use your gouges, and then you're going to cut out the wood. If you do desire to use this machine, you'll just have to get with our friendly woodshop staff here, and they can give you a demonstration on how to use it. Next up, we have the edge sander. And just like it says in the name, this is used to sand your edge of your piece of wood, instead of trying to do it by hand and possibly ending up with some waves. So what you're going to do here is you're going to put your piece of wood here against the stop block and slowly push it into here. The main things for safety with this edge sander, obviously you don't want your hand anywhere near the sanding paper while it's going. And then of course you don't want to stick an edge or a corner right into the sanding because of the crease here. It could catch on that crease and just destroy this whole belt. And then, you know, that's terrible safety concern. We don't want anybody getting hurt in here. So let's just get into it. Let's show you how to sand it. As with all equipment in the wood shop, you're gonna want your eye and your ear protection. And then next up, the next step is to pull open the dust collection to get it started and going. And then you're going to hit the on switch here, the power. Notice that it's rotating this way. Put your feet slowly. There we go. There's a nice sanded edge. Next up, we have the drum sander. So this one's really nice to use if you have like a bunch of pieces of wood that are glued together, like a tabletop, for example. If they're a little bit uneven, or you just want some of that glue off, you can put it in here. So you'll put your piece of wood in here, feed it through, and there's two large drums up top there that are surrounded by the 80 grit sandpaper that are gonna do all the sanding when you put it through. Main safety points with this. This is one of the main reasons why we don't allow like loose hair or loose clothing to be in the wood shop. Just in case you're down here, you don't want like your shirt or any of your long hair down into here. The other main safety point with this too is when you're feeding this in here, you don't want your hand to be underneath here, because once it gets in there, it's gonna push it down, and that's cause for injury there. So, all right. Next up for that, let's get it all set up and ready to go. And let's do it. Of course, we got our eye and ear protection ready to go, so we can get started. Next, you'll want to open up your air vents here to get the dust collection going. Then, after you've got your depth set correctly here by using this wheel, then you're ready to turn it on. This is going to power the drums here. So. And then this up here, you're gonna wanna turn to the left for forward, which is gonna start your table here. And now we're ready to get our piece sanded. So we'll put this here, and once it's in there, then we're gonna wanna make our adjustments until we hear it start to sand like it is right now. That's probably perfect right there. And then it comes out the other side. Going to want to keep doing that process, adjusting the height of the drums until everything's nice and smooth and you got a nice tabletop. Next, we have the spindle sander. It's mostly used to sand curves. This is just a smaller one here. You can also change it out for different sizes depending on the radius of your curve, I guess. The one main point with this, if you're going to change this out, this tool should be located here. The one thing to note is that if you want to loosen it, you have to turn it to the right. So righty loosey, lefty tighty with this machine here. So now that we're ready to sand our piece of wood, just like everything else, eye and ear protection, open our vent for the dust collection, turn the machine on here. You can see it's rotating there, and then we're just going to push it. Turn it off, close your vent. Next sander we have here is the disc sander. When you turn this piece of equipment on, both of these are going to turn on here. This one's going to be rotating this way, and this wheel is going to be rotating that way. The main safety concern with this one here, if you are sanding a small piece of wood, please make sure you're doing it on this half of the disc. Because it's rotating this way, if that small piece ends up going past here, it's going to lift that piece and it's going to throw it. I learned that lesson myself one day, so it wasn't very nice. I put it in there, threw the piece of wood, and my ring finger went right into there, and it was quick. Skin was gone immediately. So now we're going to get everything set up, ready to go, get our eye and ear protection on, and do some sanding. Now that we're ready to sand, just like everything else, eyes and ears, put them on. Open up your dust collection vent. Turn on the machine here. Do your sanding here. Or you can do it over here on this side. There we have it. Next up, we have our joiner and planer combo. The joiner here, its main job is to take out nice, nasty edges in your wood. So if you have that chunk like we sanded out earlier, you can take the joiner here and put it through here and have this blade cut out whatever you have it set to. Right now it's set to about a 1/16 of an inch, roughly 32nd or so. And just keep feeding it through and that nice little bump will disappear. So let's get set up and ready to go. Now that we're ready to go, just like everything else, eyes and ears. Eyes and ears on. Open our vent. Then we're going to turn the machine on here. After a few short passes, we now have our nice edge here ready to cut. Next up, we have the planer part of the planer joiner combo. Essentially, there are blades inside here that are going to cut the top edge of your wood. To get this set up, you're going to place your piece of wood in here, and then it shows on this gauge here how much it's going to take off. It's set to cut 1/16 here. There's an adjustment wheel on the side over here to make your adjustments up and down. But once you've got that set, you're all ready to do your planing. So let's cut. Now we're ready to do our planing. It's like everything else. We've got our eyes and our ears. Open our vent. Turn the machine on. piece of wood may be a little warped, so it didn't take off the 16th on every part of the piece of wood. But I assure you, after you make your adjustments and keep doing it, you're gonna end up with a nice flat top. Next up, we have the miter saw or chop saw. This is designed to cross-cut your piece of wood. You can change the angle of the blade here, which is annotated by this red point and the angle markings there. If you want to change that, you'll lift this handle, push this button in, and it'll automatically lock into more popular positions, like this is 15 degrees. However, if you wanted it to something like 12, push this button in, set it to 12, and then manually lock it here. We'll go back to the 0 position here, lock it in. Next, it has the light, which is located here with this button. You can turn that light on, then you can see where your blade is going to hit on your line. So now that you have it all set up and ready to go, first thing with operation of this piece of equipment, you'll notice that the blade does come out and back in. So you'll kind of want to keep pushing against the wall. You'll squeeze the trigger or squeeze the handle here, and then the blade will turn on. Keep it squeezed all the way through your cut, and then once you're through, release the handle so the machine powers down. And once it's fully completely stopped, then you're good to raise it back up and through. So now that you know how to get it all set up, let's get into cutting this piece of wood. All right, eyes and ears. Get our piece lined up. Make sure our shadow's on the waist side of the line. We'll squeeze our trigger. There we go. Got our nice cut piece of wood. Obviously, with the safety with this machine, you'll want to keep your hand away from the blade. So proper hand positioning is using your dominant hand on the machine and then putting your non-dominant hand pushing down as well as into the fence here. And once you've got that set, hand down and in, you're ready to do your cut. There we go, nice square, straight, and safe cut. So next up we have the routing table. As you can see here, we have a 3/8 round over bit in here. This is going to give us a nice rounded edge on our wood. If you want, you can change that out to like a 45 degree or anything like that. Just make sure and ask the woodshop staff. They'll get it for you out of there and change it for you. But for now, we're going to use this as our example. Safety things with this, obviously just like everything else, you don't want to have your hand anywhere near the blade while it's rotating. Second main thing, you don't want to go with the rotation of the bit. So just like the arrows that are annotated on here, you're going to move your piece of wood across that way against the rotation. So please never go with the rotation of the blade. It's just going to be like putting a football in one of those football throwers. Piece is going to go in here and it's just going to launch straight across the room, possibly hitting someone else or staff. So now that we got everything set up and ready to go, let's route an edge. All right, we're ready to route our edge. Just like everything else, eyes and ears. Put them on, open up the dust collection. You're gonna hit this light switch here. That's gonna power the machine on. Please don't think you're gonna turn any lights on with this. Let's turn it on. There we have it, our rounded edge. Obviously, you can get it a little more rounded once you raise the bit up. But just like with every other machine, if you need help, even though we're busy here in the wood shop, just let us know. We'll help you out with any of these machines. Next up, we have our bandsaw. Bandsaw is used to make nice cuts in your wood. This one, it's a thin blade on it, as you notice. It allows you to do curves or straight lines. Obviously, you're not going to get as intricate a detail as you would using the scroll saw. But as far as setup goes, you're going to get your piece of wood over here. You're going to unlock this and rotate this. See, this lifts that up and down. You'll get it set up to where it's just above your wood. Lock it in, and then we're ready to make our cut. So we got our line on our piece of wood here that we're ready to cut. So now that we're ready, eyes and ears, get them on. Then we'll power the machine on here by pulling this red out towards us, and then we're ready to cut. So as you can see here, we made our arc cut that I had drawn on the wood. And as you also saw, the main thing with safety with this is just keep your hands away from the blade while maintaining positive control of your piece of wood as you're cutting. Next up, we have the larger, wider blade bandsaw. This one's not going to be cutting any curves. This one's mostly just made for cutting the straight lines, or if you wanted to resaw a piece of wood by taking this piece of wood and cutting it into two this way. That would be done on this machine here. There's not a whole lot of setup. Just get your piece where you need to get it, and then I'll show you how to turn it on and make that. Now we're ready to make our cut. Eyes and ears. Open our dust collection here. Power the machine on with the green. Next up, we have the panel saw here. I'm sure you've seen those at like Home Depot or your home wood center. It's made to cut your large pieces of plywood. This one can fit up to about 5.5 by 5. When you get your piece of wood loaded, here I'll show that here. Just take your piece of wood, put it on the rollers here, and then you'll set it up to whatever length you want your cut to be. Let's say 30 inches. So we'll put it right there. Now that we've got it loaded, operation of the machine, this obviously goes up and down here. You're going to squeeze this trigger to make your cut, and just like the chop saw, you'll keep it squeezed all the way through your cut, let go when you're at the bottom of your cut, and then bring it back up when you're done. This machine is also capable of cutting horizontally. You can set it to whatever height you want it to be. Let's say 34-ish. Lock it in here. Pull the indexing pin. Rotate the machine 90 degrees. And then you'll engage the trigger, lock it in, and then you'll feed your wood through. I will not be demonstrating that today. However, I will be demonstrating the straight cut. So let's get to that. Everything else, eyes and ears, right? Put them on. Of course, keep your hands away from the blade. So let's make this cut. Keep your positive control of the wood here by holding it. And then you're going to squeeze your trigger. There we have it, our nice piece of measured out wood. Thanks for stopping by today and watching our virtual wood safety class video. We have all sorts of other equipment here in the wood shop. Don't ever hesitate. If you need help with utilization of any of the tools or any of the safety aspects, please feel free to let me know or one of the other staff, and we'll be more than willing to help you create your fantastic piece of art. Thanks for coming by, and hope to see you soon. Take care.